Your dog stops at the doorway, not because something startled them, not because they're confused. They stop, turn their head slightly toward you, and wait. Most people assume this is hesitation or a request for permission. Some think it's learned behavior from training. Both explanations touch on something real. Neither captures what's actually happening in your dog's brain when they defer to you in moments of uncertainty. What you're seeing is a specific neurological response that researchers have only recently been able to measure, and it reveals how your dog has structured their entire social world around your presence. Number 1. Proximity during stress. In 2019, researchers at Lincoln University tested 60 dogs by exposing them to mild stressors while their owners were present but instructed to remain neutral. Within the first 2 minutes of stress exposure, 73% of dogs moved closer to their owners, without any verbal cue or encouragement. The companion study measured cortisol levels and found something unexpected. Dogs who oriented toward their owners during stress showed a cortisol spike that plateaued and began declining within 4 minutes. Dogs who didn't orient toward a human showed cortisol that continued climbing for over 12 minutes. Your dog isn't coming to you for comfort in the way we typically understand it. They're engaging a stress regulation system that only activates when they perceive you as a secure base. This is the same attachment mechanism that developmental psychologists identify in human children with primary caregivers. A 2021 study by Nagasawa at Azabu University used fMRI imaging to watch what happens in a dog's brain when they move toward their owner during uncertainty. The caudate nucleus, the region associated with reward, anticipation, and positive emotion, showed increased activity, but so did the anterior cingulate cortex, which processes decision-making about social hierarchy. Your dog is simultaneously experiencing your presence as rewarding and consulting you as a decision-making authority. When your dog seeks you out during a thunderstorm, or when strangers approach, they're not just scared. They're performing a behavioral check-in that confirms you occupy the leadership position in their mental model of the pack. Number 2. Eye contact before action. Dogs don't make prolonged eye contact naturally with other dogs. In canine communication, sustained eye contact signals confrontation or challenge, but your dog looks directly at you, holds your gaze, and does it repeatedly throughout the day. In 2015, Takafumi Kikusui at Azabu University discovered that this behavior triggers a hormonal loop. When dogs make eye contact with their owners, oxytocin levels rise in both species. The dog's oxytocin increases by an average of 130% within 5 minutes of mutual gaze. What's remarkable is that this same hormonal response exists between human mothers and infants, and it doesn't occur between wolves and their handlers, even wolves raised by humans from birth. Your dog has hijacked a mammalian bonding system that evolved for parent-child relationships. But a 2018 study by Range at the University of Vienna added a critical detail. Researchers trained dogs to solve a simple problem, then made the problem unsolvable without telling the dogs. Within 30 seconds of encountering the impossible task, 84% of dogs turned and made direct eye contact with their owner. They didn't try to solve it themselves first. They didn't wait several minutes before checking in. They immediately looked to you for guidance. The behavior is called referential looking, and it appears in human children between 9 and 12 months old, when they begin to understand that adults possess knowledge they don't have. Your dog is doing the same calculation. Every time they glance at you before picking up a toy, before entering a room, before approaching another dog, they're confirming the hierarchy. They're checking in with the authority they've designated as decision maker. Number 3. Following you between rooms. Your dog follows you from the living room to the kitchen, then to the bedroom, then back to the kitchen. Most people interpret this as clinginess or separation anxiety. Some assume it's just hoping for food. A 2017 study by Prato Pravide at the University of Milan tested 45 dogs using a spatial monitoring protocol. Researchers tracked dogs' positions relative to their owners throughout normal daily activities across 6 hours. Dogs followed their owners an average of 37 times during that period. But here's what matters. In 89% of those instances, the dog positioned themselves where they could see both the owner and the room's entrance. They weren't just staying close. They were maintaining a surveillance position that allowed them to monitor both the pack leader and potential threats or changes in the environment. This is strategic positioning. In wolf packs, subordinate members track the alpha's location constantly, not out of affection, but because the alpha's position determines the pack's next move. Where the alpha goes, the pack follows. And knowing the alpha's location means being ready to respond to the next collective action. Your dog has mapped this same behavioral template onto your household. A follow-up study in 2020 measured what happened when dogs were separated from owners by a closed door versus a baby gate they could see through. Dogs behind closed doors showed immediate stress behaviors, barking and scratching within 90 seconds. Dogs behind see-through gates settled within 2 minutes and positioned themselves to watch the door the owner had exited through. Your dog doesn't need physical contact. They need visual confirmation of your location so they can maintain their mental map of pack structure and respond appropriately when you move or when the environment changes. Number 4. The controlled greeting. You come home and your dog goes wild for exactly 45 seconds, then stops. The shift is abrupt. Full body wiggling and jumping, then suddenly calm, sitting, waiting. In 2016, researchers at Duke University's Canine Cognition Center studied 62 dogs during owner reunions after separations of varying lengths. They found that dogs showed peak excitement between 30 and 60 seconds after the owner entered, then displayed what researchers called voluntary inhibition, a sudden cessation of excited behavior without any command. This wasn't trained. It happened with dogs who had never received formal calm greeting training. The dogs were self-regulating, and the mechanism appears to be status recognition. When your dog stops themselves mid-excitement and sits or waits, they're performing a deferential behavior that acknowledges your authority to set the tone for the interaction. A 2019 study by Barrera at the University of Buenos Aires measured this using cortisol and adrenaline markers. During the initial greeting burst, both hormones spiked. But during the voluntary inhibition phase, cortisol dropped by 40%, while adrenaline remained elevated. Your dog was still physiologically excited, but suppressing the behavioral expression of that excitement. This is impulse control directed specifically at you. Dogs don't show this pattern when greeting other dogs or familiar humans they don't live with. They only regulate their greeting intensity with the person they've identified as pack leader. Every time your dog stops themselves from jumping on you, checks themselves mid-leap, or sits down while still trembling with excitement, they're demonstrating that they've placed your authority above their own impulses. Number 5. Waiting for food. Permission. Your dog sits in front of a full food bowl and doesn't eat until you give a signal. Some dogs do this even without explicit training. In 2014, researchers at Eötvös Loránd University in Budapest tested 48 dogs by placing food in front of them while owners stood nearby without giving any command. 67% of dogs waited an average of 23 seconds before eating, repeatedly glancing at the owner. The remaining 33% ate immediately, but showed stress signals, lip licking and yawning, that indicated conflict between the desire to eat and uncertainty about permission. This is resource guarding in reverse. In typical pack dynamics, higher-ranking animals eat first. Lower-ranking animals wait or risk aggression. Your dog isn't waiting because they're polite. They're waiting because they've internalized a social rule about resource access that places you above them. The biological mechanism involves both impulse control and social cognition. A 2018 study by Feuerbacher at Carroll College used fMRI to watch dogs' brains during food wait scenarios. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive function and self-control, showed high activation. But so did the temporal parietal junction, which processes social cues and others' intentions. Your dog is simultaneously controlling the impulse to eat and actively reading you for signals about when eating is permitted. Even if you've never trained a formal wait command, a dog who sees you as pack leader will often create this pause themselves. They'll eat more slowly when you're watching, stop eating if you approach the bowl, or wait for eye contact before beginning. These aren't learned tricks. They're expressions of a social hierarchy your dog has constructed with you at the top. Number 6. Position during rest. Where your dog sleeps relative to you reveals their mental map of pack structure. In 2017, Kaminsky at the University of Portsmouth studied sleeping positions of 89 dogs over 2 weeks using home cameras. Dogs who scored highest on separation anxiety and attention-seeking behaviors slept in direct contact with owners 78% of the time. Dogs who scored highest on independent problem-solving and low stress during owner absence chose sleeping positions in the same room but not touching, often near doorways or with their back to a wall where they could see the room. This second group wasn't less bonded. They were adopting guard positions. In wolf packs, the alpha sleeps in the center, while subordinate members position themselves at the perimeter, monitoring for threats. Your dog lying at the foot of the bed or across the doorway isn't being clingy. They're assuming a protective surveillance role that acknowledges you as the high-value pack member who should occupy the safest position. A 2020 study by Soproni at Stockholm University added another layer. Researchers measured dogs' sleep quality using movement sensors. Dogs who slept in contact with owners spent 34% of the night in light sleep stages. Dogs who slept in the same room, but in guard positions, spent 61% of the night in deep sleep. Your dog in the doorway is sleeping better because they've assigned themselves a job that fits their understanding of pack roles. And that role is perimeter security, while you, the pack leader, rest in the protected center. Number 7. The behavioral check-in. Multiple times per day, your dog will approach you, make brief contact or eye contact, then walk away. They didn't want food. They didn't need to go out. They touched your hand with their nose or sat next to you for 10 seconds, then left. In 2018, researchers at Kyoto University identified this as secure base checking, a behavior pattern that shows up in human toddlers and in young primates. Over a 4-hour observation period, dogs approach their owners an average of 11 times for interactions lasting less than 30 seconds. The key finding was that these check-ins spiked during transitions, when owners moved to a new room, when unfamiliar sounds occurred, or when daily routines shifted. Your dog is updating their sense of security and pack cohesion. Each brief interaction confirms that you're present, responsive, and maintaining your leadership role. The neurological basis comes from a 2021 study by Kovac at Haute-Lorraine University using oxytocin measurement. Brief affiliative interactions, a head touch, a 5-second pet, elevated oxytocin for both dog and owner. But the elevation lasted for over 45 minutes after the interaction ended. Your dog isn't being needy. They're maintaining a hormonal baseline that supports pack bonding and stress regulation. And they're doing it by repeatedly confirming your availability. Dogs who see their owners as pack leaders perform these check-ins regularly but briefly. Dogs with unclear pack structure either avoid check-ins entirely or perform them excessively, seeking constant contact because they haven't established a secure base. The next time your dog pauses before moving through a doorway, or glances at you before picking up a toy, or follows you into the bathroom for the 3rd time today, here's what's actually happening. Their prefrontal cortex is engaging impulse control that places your authority above their desires. Their caudate nucleus is processing your presence as both rewarding and necessary for decision-making. Their oxytocin system is maintaining a hormonal bond that mirrors parent-child attachment in humans. They've constructed a mental model of pack hierarchy, and they've placed you at the top of it. This isn't submission in the way dominance trainers used to describe it. It's social cognition. Your dog has looked at the uncertain, complex world and decided that you're the one with the information, the authority, and the decision-making capacity they need to navigate it safely. They're not obedient because they're afraid. They're cooperative because they're secure. The research shows that dogs with clear pack leaders exhibit lower baseline cortisol, solve problems more persistently, and show fewer stress behaviors during novel situations. Your leadership doesn't diminish your dog. It organizes their world in a way that allows them to relax, explore, and trust that someone is managing the big decisions. If you're seeing these 8 behaviors, you're seeing evidence of a neurological and social bond that dogs evolved to form over 15,000 years of living alongside humans. Let me know in the comments which of these behaviors you recognize in your own dog. And if you found this helpful, subscribe for more science-backed insights into how your dog actually thinks.